Hey everyone, this is Felix and Steve here from Talkative. We're going to be showing and talking about how to set up Talkative within the Mitel Contact Center Business platform. So I'm going to be showing how to set up things from a Talkative side, everything from setting up your account to connecting up queues, all from a Talkative side. But first of all, Steve is going to be talking about how you set up Open Media on Mitel Contact Center. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then Steve, I will let you start sharing now.
Cool. Sure. So we're still running a 9.3 version of MiCC here, but I'm sure you know how to apply the same concepts to newer versions of the Mitel. So hopefully you should be aware that in order to connect Talkative to Mitel, we use the Open Media API that Mitel provides. So documentation is available directly within YSE, within your media server area here. So it would be a case of going into the media server and creating an open media server and configuring settings completely as standard. We don't require anything off-piste. You're going to use open media as always. So once you've configured open media and you've made it available, or by default, it makes itself available on port 443. Talkative needs to be able to access that open media server through the customer's firewall, either through your web proxy on an OIG, MBG, or through the customer's firewall. So you can make that an out-of-range port, and you can lock down to Talkative's own AWS infrastructure to ensure that only us are able to connect to that open media port. Then once you've accessed the open media itself, it's just a case of going in and creating the relevant open media queues. So open media has its own queue type within the Mitel platform. So once you've created those, one of the key things that you'll need to understand, again, following all the standard setup guides that Mitel provides, one of the most important things you'll need to do is make sure that you validate that workflow. So that will include configuring a primary agent group, setting the relevant options, and saving and configuring the validation here. So you'd create as many queues as you may need within the Mitel system to deliver your different services to your different teams and different agent skill groups within the Mitel platform. And once you've configured open media and set up those relevant queues within your open media system, Talkative will be able to view those queues, and Felix will show us how we configure Talkative to point to those. That makes sense, mate?
It does. And then, Steve, do we need to talk about how we assign those skill types to agents?
So it's the same agent skill grouping, agent skill level routing, and assigning groups to queues that's identical for any other Mitel open media type. So whether it be a voice, whether it be an email queue, the same concepts apply. You allocate a employee with an agent ID to a specific skill group, assign that skill group to the queue, and away you go. Obviously, it does also support the universal queue concept that Mitel provide, which is a true omni-channel queue where voice, email, and your open media can all live in effectively one queuing system. But any questions on that stuff, give us a shout.
Awesome. Sounds good. So yeah, so now when I'm logged into our demo system and I go set myself to available, I've got 3 different media type configured, including open media on the right here. And I can take up to 3 open media concurrently. And what you can do on the Mitel side is set up rules such as that if you're on a voice call or you're busy on other media type, open media can't be routed to you, and vice versa.
That's all part of workload configuration within multimedia.
Awesome. Cool. So once your Talkative account has been created, you'll get an email like this. It will be from this email address. So if you don't receive it, maybe check your spam. But it will initially ask you to set your password. And here you enter in password. And you're taken to the login screen. Now, in order to set up the Mitel, we want to go to settings here. And the one you want to go to is interaction routing. You can also access this at any time by just searching for Mitel in your settings. But if we go to this page, you'll see there's a few different routing systems here. If you're using Mitel Contact Center Enterprise, you want this option. But for business, we need Mitel routing here.
And CX.
And CX coming soon, indeed. So the bits of information that we need, I've got pasted from our demo system. So the URL is the public-facing FQDN. You don't need anything beyond just the top-level domain in this URL. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Steve.
No, that should all be good.
And then we want the client ID and the secret. And this is something that you will need to have previously added to the clients.config file in MiCC. And we'll attach the setup guide to this video as a link, but you need to basically add in a new secret such that when requests come into the server, they're authorized accordingly. The queue cap is something that can be left blank or just have an arbitrarily high number. So what queue cap does is when the queue reaches a certain threshold, it will mark the queue in Talkative as offline. And this is a global queue cap that can be overridden on specific queues, and we'll show how to do that in a moment. SSL verification should be set to verify, and then we create the Mitel distributor. Now, providing everything's all set up, if we now go to our interaction routing, it will now just have the Mitel distributor here. So the way that Talkative is set up, you can only have one distributor or routing system at a time in a company. If you want to delete this, you can do so here, but now this top-level verification is done. The next thing we want to do is connect up our queues. So again, just in our settings, search for queues. And to just show one example, we'll click on one of these default created queues, which is called chat queue here. There's a bunch of settings on this page, but the one we care about is at the bottom, and it's the routing settings. So on this drop down, we've got a number of open media queues that automatically pulled through from the MiCC. And I think in this case, the one on my test system is OMQ2. And here we can apply a queue-based queue cap as well. So for example, maybe if you had a sales queue that you wanted to only be online when customers aren't going to wait very long, you'd maybe have this set to 1 or 2. But if it's a support queue or a queue where customers are likely to wait longer, or you're okay with having them wait longer, this can be a higher number, and it can just be left blank if you want it to be unlimited. So now that we've created this queue, that's the, if you like, the sum of the Mitel connection stuff done. So the final thing we want to do is just send in a test interaction. So there's a few ways of doing this, but the quickest and easiest is just to come to the chat widgets. And we can either go through this chat widget and create it. But if we just want to test that a chat can come in, we could just go through this setup wizard to the queue that we've just created. And we can just send in a chat. And I'm going to delete this or disable this data collection form. So we're just going straight through to sending a chat to the queue. Now, if we jump over to our Mitel, if we set everything up correctly, we'll now have an open media interaction routed through to our agent, and we do. So I'm going to accept this open media, and the way that this works is open media will embed a talkative R-frame to the agent, this URL here. And the first time that we accept an interaction, we need to log in. If we've already logged in, then it will just automatically close down. And now that we're connected with the agent, like this, we can verify that the Mitel setup is done. So that's really the baseline of what we need to do to get things up and running. Steve, I don't know if you've got anything else that we should highlight to look out for.
The only other thing that can make sense is user mapping, but it's not a requirement.
Okay. So that is, do you know how to get to that bit?
Just go to a user is usually the easiest starting point, I find.
Okay. Okay, so we can either do this on an individual basis, or we can manage all agent mappings. And if you have multiple users, they'll show here. So this is not something that we require to be done. It just helps with ensuring that if you have perhaps users sharing logins, which you shouldn't do, it just helps ensure that you're only ever allocating interactions to the correct agent from a talkative perspective.
Super.
Cool. So then in terms of other things, reporting is something we'll cover in a separate video, but you've got your basic talkative reports, both live dashboard and analytics in here. One thing that you might want to consider doing is under your Ignite dashboard, we have the option to embed in talkative live dashboards. So while all of your queue and agent reporting is done natively in Mitel, Talkative does have some of its own reporting and dashboards. Some of those that are of particular interest are live chat monitoring. So this is where you can see active chats on the go, and you can even send messages to the agent in a coaching-like fashion or whisper-type fashion. And we also have some CSAT dashboards and sentiment analysis dashboards that can be useful when managing a contact center. So how do we embed these in? So you want to create a dashboard. So we'll just create one from scratch. We'll add in a widget, and we want to add in web browser. You might want to make this a little bigger. So we'll make this 1,000. And then to grab the URL, you go into your live dashboard, and then you'll notice on each of these, we've got this copy embed URL. And if we just take this one as an example, paste it in here, and then save. This will now show up in our Ignite. Now, the way these dashboards work is by default, you again need to be logged into Talkative to see them. However, you can make these public such that anyone with a share link can view. The way you do that is by clicking Edit Dashboard. And then under Permissions, you can make this a public dashboard. So this might be useful if only a certain percentage of your users in Mitel have access to Talkative. It could also be that maybe you have non-contact center users that would benefit from seeing these dashboards. So once you've applied this and saved, you can then share that same URL with anyone, and they can have access to the dashboard. Cool. Steve, anything else we want to cover?
Relating to the Mitel, I think that covers the core subjects, definitely.
Awesome. Well, thanks for watching, everyone, and speak to you soon.